Tom Suozzi's last election, New York Congressional District 1, he won by 12,000 votes, and he won the Nassau portion by 2,000 votes, which is nothing. He won the Queens part by over 10,000, and most of those votes came from Bay Terrace.
Right, and we never let Tom forget it.
This is the Co-op and Condo Insider, the podcast dedicated to New York's cooperative and condominium communities. This is your trusted source for the latest insights, strategies, and stories shaping the world of shared housing. You will hear from the people who are leaders in this community, information and insights you will not hear anywhere else. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, you're in the right place. The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the host or any affiliated individuals or organizations.
Hello, welcome to the Co-op and Condo Insider. This is where we explore the real-world issues facing the co-op and condo community across New York City and New York State with insight, expertise, and a healthy dose of straight talk. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jeffrey Maisel. Many of you might know I'm a co-op attorney and legal advisor to the President's Co-op and Condo Council. And I'm thrilled to be joined by my co-host, Richard Solomon, a seasoned voice in public radio for over 20 years. Richard has taken his listeners around the world to meet experts, newsmakers, and the people making a real difference in our everyday lives. Richard, it's great to have you on the mic with us today.
Thank you for the honor for being here.
All right. Today, we're honored to welcome Warren Schreiber, a man who wears many hats. He's the president of his own co-op, president of the Queens Civic Congress, co-president of the President's Co-op and Condo Council. Warren is a tireless advocate for co-op residents and a driving force for fair, informed co-op housing policies in New York. He understands the nuts and bolts of co-op governance, and we welcome here today. Warren, thrilled to have you and honored to have you. So let's, we gave a little bit of your background. Why don't you give us a little more and tell us where you're from? And are you originally from Queens?
Sure. So let me begin. First of all, Jeff, I want to thank you for having me here as the first guest on this badly needed podcast where we can talk to people and explain the issues that are impacting the co-op and condo community. And Richard Solomon, it's a pleasure to be with you again. Thank you both. So originally I was from Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn. I lived in Brooklyn. My father was a World War II veteran, and when he came home from World War II, we actually moved into city housing, which is now known as NYCHA, a wonderful place to grow up.
So let's fast forward. What brought you to Queens, the promised land, so to speak, and what brought you to co-op housing?
Sure. So what brought me to Queens was my job. I worked for the MTA. I worked for the MTA for over 30 years, and my last assignments, probably the last 14 years, I was always situated someplace in Queens. The last time was actually right out of Jamaica, where you have the Jamaica Yards right now down by Kew Gardens. And co-op housing, I wish that I could say that co-op housing, I was smart enough for it to be my choice. But actually, when I met my current wife, she was already living in the apartment, and I realized what a wonderful lifestyle it was. So I have to credit her.
Okay. So you're smart enough to meet her and get married, but not smart enough to know co-op housing was going to lead you to a whole new path.
Right.
So you're working for the MTA. You're married to your lovely wife, and what pulled you to be a member of the board of directors?
Sure. So, when I first moved to Bay Terrace, that's our co-op, Bay Terrace Cooperative Section 1, and as a matter of fact, when I first met my wife, I didn't even know where Bay Terrace was. I didn't even know it existed. And when I first came out here, it reminded me of the country, because at that time it was. You didn't have a lot of development. And
what year was this, Warren?
Oh, this would probably be when I first came out here, about 1990. maybe.
Okay.
So, they naturally, like every place else, Bay Terrace has developed, and we have a lot of new housing. We have a lot of traffic, but at that time, it was just someplace where I lived. I went back and forth to work. I really didn't have time to be involved in the day-to-day operation of the co-op. But then when I retired from the MTA, which was wow, way back in 1996, I took more of an interest in it, and I was able to become what we refer to as associate members. And on our board, we have directors who are elected by the shareholders, and they are able to vote on any decisions that we make. Associate members, I like to equate it to it's a farm team. It's our farm team, and that's where we have shareholders who they sit in on the meetings. They can participate in the meetings, but they can't.
So you're an associate member. You're liking it, right? You're getting interested.
I'm liking it, and then one year we had an opening on the board, and I decided to run for that opening, and I was successful. And here I was. I was a member of the board for a very short time. I actually became the treasurer of the co-op.
Bad move. Bad move there. Bad move there.
Right. And then I decided it was time for me to move on. I wanted to take the co-op in a different direction. There were some things that I thought could be done better than they were being done.
Did you ever think in those days that this would lead you to the steps of City Hall, the steps of the New York State Capitol, and literally meetings with U.S. senators, governors, mayors, etc.? Any inkling at that time?
Never, because when I first came on the board, and for a long time, the main concern that we had as a board was, we had to do some repairs. We had landscaping. We had plumbing repairs. We would respond to complaints. People would complain about their neighbor making noise, and that took up a great deal of our time. But now, most of my time is taken up dealing with legislative issues and unfunded mandates that the city and the state are trying to impose on us. So it's been a real change in what we have to do and how we devote our time.
So just a fun fact, Warren's probably the only board president I know whose lawyer fired him. and from the dust of that that traumatic event came the hiring of a young lawyer named Jeffrey Maisel. So why don't you tell everyone how that came about?
Sure. So when I eventually became president of the board, we had an attorney who he had been with the corporation for a long time. And part of the problem was that when I took over the board, when I became president, we had a lot of people who had gotten very comfortable, including our attorney, our accountant, even some of our vendors, the contractors that we used. And, it was a comfort level that didn't benefit the corporation. So one time I spoke to the attorney, and my question to him was, would it be possible when we ask for certain documents or certain information, if he would be able to produce that in a quicker time frame, a faster time frame than he had been able to? And I still remember his words to me were, "Well, Warren, if you feel that way, I guess you should find a new attorney." And I was standing there holding the phone, and I'm going like, "Wow, this guy just fired me." And it was a strange experience. But as Jeff said, it worked out for the better, because we started interviewing attorneys, and as soon as Jeff and Mark walked in and they sat down, we knew these were the guys. And it's been a great partnership ever since. How long has it been, Jeff? It's been
2022 years.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
think about this. Think about this. That phone call has led to this podcast with all of us being here today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And again, if I ever thought that phone call that I got from Warren Schreiber, who just got fired from his other law, and they told me that, by the way, they said, be careful, this guy's tough. And it's led to an incredible path of advocacy and civic engagement. Warren and I had a meeting, and I can't remember this is in the very early days of our legislative involvement. And we had a meeting with, I can't remember, a council member. We went to 250 Broadway. She wasn't there. Nobody knew about us. We went all the way to 250 Broadway with absolutely nothing to do. Nobody would meet with us. So we stood in front of the building, and Warren knew he recognized some of the council members. So on the way in, we grabbed them and we would meet with them on the sidewalk. And those were our first meetings with, I don't even know if we had a group back then, but we couldn't get arrested. So Warren, you wear a lot of hats. President's Co-op and Condo Council, Queens Civic Congress, I guess Bay Terrace Section 1. What inspired you to your civic advocacy beyond Bay Terrace Section 1? How did that develop?
Sure. Well, I mean, they all work together. Well, it was back in 1999 in Bay Terrace. We're a community of co-ops and condos. I believe there's 18 or 19 different co-ops and condos. And somebody had proposed the idea, it wasn't me, of creating a civic group, because at that time we didn't have one in Bay Terrace. And the members were going to be mostly these multifamily buildings. We decided, we gave it a name, we called it the Bay Terrace Community Alliance. And I became active in that. For a while. I was a vice president, and then I went on to become president of that organization. I was president for about 10 years, I think, and that just led to other involvement. I believe in civic engagement. That's a way that we can give back to the community, and it's also a way that we can, speak to our elected officials. And the Queens Civic Congress is a very influential group, as is the President's Co-op and Condo Council.
What is the President's Co-op and Condo Council, and how your involvement came about?
Sure. So the President's Co-op and Condo Council, I believe it goes back to 2012, 2011. It was set up in response at that time. The Department of Finance, the co-ops and condos, they were getting hit with double and triple digit tax increases on the assessed valuation. And we needed something to be a voice. And it was actually my good friend, Bob Friedrich. He put this together. And Bob and I, we now share the presidency. But before that, there was no united voice for the co-op and condo community. There were other organizations, but unfortunately, those organizations would very often try to sell the members, and by the members, I mean the different co-op and condo properties. They would try to sell, services and products, which we didn't need. And in many instances, it was somewhat self-serving, because you had attorneys who were on the boards controlling those organizations, and what their main motivation was that they wanted to generate new clients for themselves. They weren't really helping the community. So Bob and I, we realized the need for this, and we have put this together. And right now, I mean, sometimes I'm just overwhelmed by how successful it's been, by the influence that we have, the people that we have been able to meet with. I mean, there aren't too many people who say they won't meet with us. even
as evidenced by one Andrew Cuomo, who was not
right.
leaving his house for any reason until recently, but he met with us 2 weeks ago in Glen Oaks in what I think a very important meeting with possibly the next mayor of New York.
Right.
So I just want to also add that the President's Co-op and Condo Council it developed organically, and it's grassroots,
Hmm.
and we don't really spend a lot of money. We don't really have a lot of money. And the irony that I always find is, lately whenever we do something, I guess we pack a good punch. Is we're accused of being big real estate's behind us.
Yes.
So
Well, speaking of that, how many units are there in Bay Terrace right now?
18 co-ops and condos. The exact number of units, I don't have that, right at the tip of my hand.
I would
It's a
say
lot. It's probably
3,500 to
close.
4,000.
And how many
Yeah.
people would you say occupy all those units?
Probably 5,000 or 6,000 people. So it's it's a large voting block, and very often a lot of the um, elected officials, they know that if they can't carry Bay Terrace in the election, they're in trouble.
Just something I noticed, and the influence of the Bay Terrace, I guess corridor, whatever you want to call it, is when Tom Suozzi's last election, New York Congressional District won, he won by 12,000 votes, and he won the Nassau portion by 2,000 votes, which is nothing. He won the Queens part by over 10,000, and most of those votes came from Bay Terrace.
Right, and we never let Tom forget it.
One thing the President's Council has been very adept at, and I think, of course, your relationship with electeds is a big part of it, is parlaying co-op constituency into a political movement or a legislative advocacy movement. So why don't you speak to that and how you see that going?
I think that a really large part of the problem is that our lawmakers, both in the city and the state, they don't understand co-ops and condos, and especially co-ops. They don't understand co-ops. They don't understand co-op governance. They don't understand how we operate. And that's been part of our job, is to try to educate them.
I remember, Warren, you and I were in a Zoom meeting with Linda Lee. She literally sat there with a pencil and pad, and Curtis Lewa too, I remember. And we were explaining co-op housing and whatever issues, probably talking about the particulars of, and Vicky Palladino, I remember her too.
Yes.
And we became, and Warren, of course, we became their source, and that's a big part of our outreach, is to, and it, I mean, I'll take Cuomo as for an example. We hosted the governor, and it turned out that mostly the board presidents, explained to him their problems, and he didn't know it because it doesn't make the news. It's not, it's not exciting. It's not front page of the Post, and that's a big part of what, Warren, you brought to the interactions you brought and with the elected officials. What is your relationship with the elected officials in your area?
I take great pride in the fact that I have fantastic, excellent relationships with elected officials on both sides of the aisle. Okay, whether they're Democrats, Republicans. Ed Braunstein, we know Ed Braunstein has absolutely been a champion for us in Albany. Toby Stavitsky has been amazing. Tom Suozzi has supported us on the other side of the aisle. We have Vicky Palladino. I mean, I can't. Vicky, when Vicky came into office, she did not know a lot about co-ops and condos, and she sat down and she listened to us. And she is one of the people in the city council who she really, really fights for us. Also, the minority leader, Joanne Ariola. She's a wonderful friend to the co-op and condo community. And as I said, we have good relationships with them, and we try to work with both sides of the aisle, which I've been able to do, and I think I do that successfully. And some of these people, I actually consider them to be friends. And but that's important, that you can have those type of conversations, and when you have a private conversation, you can be honest with the person, and you know that they're not going to get insulted, be offended, and suddenly say, "I'm never going to speak to you again." And it's important to have that type of open, honest relationship with these elected officials, and I think we do.
As board president, what keeps you up at night?
I said before, I've been doing this now for 25, 26 years. I've been board president, but which aside from everything else, shows that I'm a glutton for punishment. But local law 97, that's the one that keeps me up at night. And when I speak to my colleagues at other co-ops, they say the same exact thing. We have no idea how we're going to pay for this. We have no idea how our shareholders are going to pay for this.
What is it looking like in terms of the effect on your co-op dollar-wise?
So we've tried to crunch the numbers a little bit, and the city, they want us to make modifications to our heating plants and our lighting plants, and mostly the heating plants, and they're looking for us to electrify. And what that means is going to a system of heat pumps. So the problem with that is, first of all, for my co-op, it would probably cost us about maybe $10 million, $15 million to do that. And we have 200 shareholders. So, do the math, divide that $10, $15 million by 200 people. Well, how can anybody afford that? But more importantly is that, the electrification and the pumps, they're not ready for prime time. Okay, right here in Bay Terrace, where we have these 18, 19 co-ops and condos, if everybody was to suddenly go electrify, get rid of their heating plants, get rid of their oil, gas, whatever they're using, and go to heat pumps, and everybody flips a switch, puts them on at the same time, you know what's going to happen? We're going to have a blackout. We're going to have a blackout. Absolutely going to have a blackout. This is what the city wants us to do, and it's it doesn't make any sense. And if we don't do that, we have really draconian penalties that they want to impose on us. I can't think of any law that ever has had those type of penalties imposed on people who violate the law. I mean, you could go in and rob a store and you're not subjected to such severe penalties. So there's simply no way for most co-ops and condos, especially one like mine. I mean, we're almost 70 years old now. How do we upgrade all our systems? And I don't have the answer to that. And we're not the only ones in this boat. So this is a law that I would absolutely like to see this law changed. As a matter of fact, Local Law 97 should never have been passed. But it is. It's here. I'd like to see it be changed, and I would like to see the way it's funded be changed. I think that the entities, the corporations that created this problem, this climate problem, and I believe in climate change. I'm not a climate denier, but these companies, such as Con Ed, they should be the ones to pay for it. They should be the ones to pay to fix it. Don't put that cost on the backs of middle-income, working-class people who can't afford it and who didn't create the problem. When we use our automobiles, when we use appliances in our home, that's because Con Ed marketed those appliances. They marketed the electric. It's the big auto companies that they marketed their automobiles. And
what are some of the suggested changes or reforms that the President's Council and yourself are advocating with City Hall?
So we have the intro in the City Council. There are some bills pending in the City Council, and one of them would change the way the square footage is calculated, because right now it's based on if you have a square footage of over 25,000 feet, you have to be in compliance with Local Law 97. Well, if you take my co-op and a lot of co-ops like mine, we have large amounts of green space. We have campus areas, large green space. So that green space should be counted in our square footage. And if that was to happen, of course, so now, just as an example, say they're basing my square footage on 100,000 square feet. Well, my square footage now might be based on 250,000 square feet, which of course lowers my carbon footprint and would lower any penalties I might have. And that possibly could even put us in compliance right away.
Just for clarification, the Green Act doesn't count the green space.
That's correct. Right.
Okay, go ahead, Richard.
So I have a question for both Jeff and Warren, which is, has anybody thought of an Eighth Amendment challenge to the law under the excessive fines clause?
Well, what we actually did that, and not only that, we had we went to court. Okay, so there was a lawsuit that was brought, and myself and Bob Friedrich, we were the only two plaintiffs who were willing to step forward and go ahead with this lawsuit. There was also one other, a mixed-use building, a commercial building in Maiden Lane in Manhattan. So there were three of us. Nobody else wanted any part of it. They didn't want to put their name out front. We did. This was probably about 2 years ago. And we had a funder. I'm not at liberty to say who funded the lawsuit. Our attorney was Randy Masco, who is now one of the deputy mayors. He was the deputy mayor under Giuliani. And we went all the way up to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals, they dismissed the case, but it's still somewhat impressive that we were able to get that far, because in New York State, the Court of Appeals is the equivalent to the Supreme Court of the United States. There's no place higher to go. So we made it all the way up to the top with that. But we did go that route, Richard. We brought the lawsuit, and unfortunately, the judge dismissed that.
Okay, so I want to get to the heavy-duty, serious portion
all right,
of the podcast. We're going to call it the lightning round. Okay, short answers, Warren.
So, Warren, what's your favorite thing to do in Queens?
Favorite thing that I like about Queens, of course, is the diversity of Queens.
There you go, diversity. Next question.
Food. Okay.
What's your favorite pizza place in Queens?
Okay, so difficult. Right now, I have two favorites. One of them is right here in Bay Terrace, Rose's Pizza, and there's a new pizza place opened up right near Clearview Gardens, Parlor. Wonderful pizza. Okay. Yes.
All right, morning person or night owl?
Oh, absolutely morning.
Okay, how early is early?
5:30.
Okay. What is the one thing you wish every co-op shareholder knew right this second that they probably don't know that they should?
Well, I would like them to know how hard their board of directors work. That we take that job really seriously, and we don't just make decisions without giving it a lot of thought.
Hobby or interest that nobody would know that you actually were engaged in?
Well, I like to collect photos of Snoopy.
There was a guy
Snoopy.
There was a guy on Channel 3 had a whole Snoopy collection. I'll talk to you about that.
I love to collect the photos of Snoopy, and yeah.
All right, this is kind of a loaded question. Mets or Yankees, but it really or Dodgers, because if you're from Brooklyn, that's a possibility too.
But the Brooklyn Dodgers are first, because that team in LA, they're a bunch of imposters. But it's absolutely the Mets. Absolutely the Mets.
All right, favorite neighborhood restaurant.
Okay, so again, the favorite, I just have to name a couple. We have, again, right in Whitestone, Utopia Bagels.
Yep.
Okay. And then we have, going into Bayside, we have the French Workshop, which is coffee and pastry. Yep. Wonderful place. And in Bayside, there is a place called Belly Cake Pancake House. And it is simply amazing. They have pancakes in more varieties than you could think of. They have a banana brulee, s'mores, and strawberries with cream, and it's a hidden gem in this community.
I'm going to ask one that's not on the list. Favorite place that's no longer in existence?
A favorite place that's no longer in existence. There was a Chinese restaurant in the Bay Terrace shopping center. It was called Joy Tian. Yeah. And Joy Island. Wonderful food, and I miss them.
I got one. Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Who? Who? Oh,
Beatles
Beatles.
or Rolling Stones?
Gee, that's really it. It depends on the song, but I'll go with the Beatles. But I think Mick Jagger is amazing. So.
There you go. All right, Warren, this was fantastic. I Snoopy. I mean, that's my takeaway. In fact, when we post this online, we won't have your headshot. We'll have a picture of Snoopy.
Put a picture of Snoopy up. Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone loves Snoopy. Richard, any final thoughts?
I just want to thank Warren because there is an army of unrecognized heroes out there. And I think that army needs to be acknowledged. And I'll do that on behalf of the people who aren't saying it, because both of you guys are doing tireless yeoman's work for the good of so many families and hardworking regular people. If you look, I know co-ops really well. And if you look at it, they're all just hardworking people. They keep their neighborhoods clean. They worry about crime. They want their kids to go to school, get them there on time, and if it wasn't for your efforts on those people's behalf, their lives would not be as comfortable as they are.
Thank you, Richard.
I also want to add that, again, Warren and I mean, we have at this point, a generation of experience together, beyond at least beyond my expectations. And whenever you meet electeds or you're in a meeting, they always acknowledge each other and they stand up and they clap for each other. Co-presidents don't do that. They don't acknowledge each other, but they should, because all of you are volunteers. And as I said last episode, all politics are local, and there's nothing more local than the walls you live in. And Warren, your care, your energy has changed a lot of lives. We didn't even mention the ground lease issue. We're going to have you back. Well, we'll just carve out a bunch of issues, and we'll talk about Snoopy a lot more. But Warren, I want to thank you for joining us. If you have any final thoughts.
Yeah, well, Jeff, I just want to I want to thank you, Richard. I want to thank you. This was a lot of fun, and I'm honored to have been your inaugural guest on this podcast. I know it's going to be well received, and you talk about the other co-op board members and presidents, and I've often said that my colleagues, the other board presidents, these are probably the smartest people I know. They are. And if there are shareholders listening right now, I want them to understand that too, that the people who serve them, volunteers without pay, give their time, these are really smart people. And you should, once in a while, pass them on the street or on your property and say thank you.
All right, Warren, thanks again. We are out of time at this point. I just want to say thank you to Warren Schreiber, president of the presidents, for his time, for opening up a little bit of, I learned a lot more about him. I know Warren a long time, and it was terrific to hear from you. And anybody listening, thank you for listening to the Co-op and Condo Insider. We have a world of shows ahead, running the gamut. I've already gotten people calling me, wanting to be on the show, wanting to tell their stories, from elected officials to former elected officials to maintenance workers to engineers, accountants, on and on, so we can hear the stories behind the scenes inside the co-op world. Thank you for listening, and have a good day, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Co-op and Condo Insider. We hope you found today's conversation informative and insightful. Don't forget to subscribe. We're available on all major podcast platforms. Until next time, stay informed.